welcome to episode 75 of my Doll's House Diary. And today really is going to be a bit of an experimental episode as I'm recording for the first time using my phone rather than my handheld Canon camera. So I really want to see what the quality is going to be like and how easy it is to edit as well. Now, as far as my doll's house is concerned, I haven't really been able to spend much time on it over the last couple of weeks, really because I've been working on projects for Book 6 and also projects for my Patreon channel. Although I am working on a little sideboard for the living room, which I'll show you in a moment. And I'm recording that as a bit of an ASMR video. And in that, I mean, I'm going to just show you the footage along with some really nice relaxing music rather than doing it as a talking tutorial, and I really hope you'll enjoy that as well, and if you do I can do a lot more of those in the future. But for now, let me just show you that little unit and where I'm going to be putting it. So before I show you that unit, I just want to show you this little stand that I'm going to be using for my mobile, and this is really handy, and I use this actually quite a lot for filming shorts and things. You can have the camera portrait or landscape on there and obviously still be able to access your camera, and also you can put the phone on charge whilst it's on here. If you've got it upright, then the cord just goes in there. And I also sort of prop my phone on here when I'm watching listening to podcasts or watching things on YouTube or on television on my phone. So that's really handy, and that's what I'm going to be using today as my tripod. But obviously if this doesn't work, or if it's too low down, or I haven't got the correct angles, then I'll see that when I come to edit the video. But let me show you that little unit. So here is the unit, obviously still working on it. I'm about halfway through. My next job will be to cut the doors and the drawers. And I want to do quite a bit of nice detailing on the doors using a sort of parquet technique, which I've done on doors before as a tutorial on my Patreon channel, and it does look really good. So I'm going to be using that. But I've actually designed this to be similar to the coffee table. So you've got the separate top and bottom there. And then the feet, I've actually cut separately, shaped them like that, and they'll go on there like that. And that's the same design as the coffee table, so that all of the furniture in there will tie in. And as I say, I've been recording everything I've done, but without talking. And then I'll just put this on with some really nice, relaxing music. And I wanted to do that because I've been watching a few videos on YouTube lately where people create something from start to finish, and it's just usually along with some nice music. And I particularly like a glass blowing channel, and also there's somebody on there who makes things from pencils. So they put a load of pencils into almost like a vat with some clear resin, and then they actually shape that on a lathe into vases and lamp bases and things like that. And it's really, really interesting to watch. So that's what I'm going to try to do with this. And then if you like that, I can do a few more of those as well. And the reason I'm not really doing it as a tutorial is just that we've made things like this before. So the basic sort of body is the same as many other tutorials you'll find here on the channel, and then I'm just adding some different details. But hopefully you'll enjoy watching it from start to finish. But let me just go and show you in the doll's house where this will actually sit. So that is going to sit there in the corner, and it will be a little bit higher as well with the feet. And that's what I meant about the feet there, so they'll be the same as on the coffee table. Quite like that. And then we can have a lamp on there and do a little display, maybe a nice picture above or a painting above. And then what I'm going to do is design a similar sideboard, but with 3 drawers and doors rather than the 2, and that will sit over on the back wall. And I think I spoke about that before, how I wanted something fairly wide to go along there, so that we'll sort of slightly tuck behind or beside the armchair there, and then go all the way along and probably come sort of to the half of the width of the sofa there. And I think that will look really nice as well. And again, we can do a nice display on there, a lovely big painting above, a nice landscape. I'm thinking something sort of quite autumnal or wintry, just to go along with that log cabin feel. But even just sort of looking in there, I'm really pleased with how this room is coming along. So what I want to do now is just actually take the sofa and chair back into the craft room and change the cushions a little bit. I think now with the new sort of checked fabric, some of the checks are clashing a little bit. So I'll make a couple of cushions using the chair fabric. And I'm going to be knitting some as well. And I also want to measure up how many squares I need for the little crochet throw that I'm making to go on the back of the sofa. Okay, so I quite like that corduroy cushion on there. I think that looks really nice. And I'm going to add one of the flower cushions. I think that goes quite nicely. Put that on there like that. So I think that's enough for the chair. And then on here, I'm going to get rid of these checked ones. I think now we've got the other check, they don't look quite right with it, but I will keep the flower one. And then I'll do a couple of these, one for each corner. And I think I might do another corduroy one and maybe a longer one to go in the centre. So that will sit in front of it. And then of course I'll be doing my knitted cushion with the little brown buttons that I showed you in the last episode. So I haven't even started knitting that yet, but when I do, I'll show you that and then show you it with the buttons attached. I'm quite looking forward to doing that, see how that looks. So I'll get all of these actually cut later, and I'm going to hand stitch those. I'll probably hand stitch those during lunch. And then I just want to measure up for the crochet throw. So I haven't actually even had time to do any more of this, so I've only got 2 full squares at the moment, and I'm working on a lovely 3D flower throw, which I'm going to be selling in my Etsy shop eventually once it's finished. So I'm going to use these to measure up, and I want it to sort of start about there at each end like that, and then hang over there. So if I do it 1, 2, I'll probably do it about 5 deep, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 by 6, so more or less a square. And then that will just drape over the back of the sofa. I think that will look really nice and cosy. So I've created the design here for the other sideboard for the living room, and it's going to be quite wide, as you can see, so 150 millimeters or 6 inches wide, and then 76 by 38, which is the same height and depth as the little unit that I'm working on at the moment. So these lines that I've done here on the doors will be made from strips of probably 0.8 millimeter sheetwood, and I'll just lay those across the door and then put the surround on. And I'm going to try to insert a picture here of the one that I made for my Patreon channel. And this one is fairly detailed, and I used the sort of traditional parquet floor design, so the sort of interlocking L shapes. And I actually coloured all of those using different wood dyes before attaching them. This one will be a little bit more simple, so these strips will be the same colour as the actual unit. And for that I'm using the Rustin's brown mahogany, but it will just give it that sort of layered or textured look, which I really like. So as soon as I finish the 2-door cupboard, I'll begin working on this one. Again, I won't do it as a full tutorial, as I've done quite a few units like this. And again, you're just using the sort of same structure for the body, and then you're just or adapting it by the use of feet and the doors and detailing on the drawers and things like that. And that little moulding in the centre there will match the shape of the feet. So once you've got the sort of main structure, you can do anything you like to adapt pieces to your own style. And even something like this you could probably take from one of the kitchen units in my Creating Kitchens book, if you have that. Or I did a couple, didn't I, here for the kitchen. I did a sink, and a rather large unit as well. So you could adapt that, or even that little 2-door sideboard that I did for the kitchen, and just make it your own, really. So another thing I want to have a go at today is making a lamp for the living room. And I'm going to use this lovely vase for the lamp base. This is 30mm high, or 1 3/16 of an inch high. I've got here a piece of clear tube, which fits very nicely in the vase there, and I'll use that to support the lamp. For the lampshade, I'm actually using the inner reel from a ball of crochet cotton, so the larger balls of crochet cotton that you can buy. This was taller, but I've cut it in half, so I've got 2 of these now. So if this works, I'll be able to make another lamp as well. I'm going to be using my checked fabric, but the cream stripe on there, so I'll cut that in a moment. And then to actually attach the shade to the tube, I'm going to be using some clear acetate. Now, this works really well in my head, but I'm not sure if it's going to work in practice, so let's have a go. So the first thing I did was measure the opening of my shade, and that's 24mm. So I'm going to just draw a circle onto my acetate, measuring 24mm. So take your measurement, obviously half of that. And I've got here in my compass my scribe rather than a pencil, and that should then score the circle on there a lot easier than using a pencil, which you probably won't be able to see. Apologies for the sound if that doesn't come out very nice on the microphone. And then what I also need to do is cut a hole for the tube to go through, and that measures 7mm. So I'm going to reset my compass circumference. Again, go in the centre there. Like that. But when I actually cut out the circle, I'm just going to leave a bit of a border around it as well, that we can then fold up some tabs on to actually stick it to the inside of the lamp. Otherwise you've just got a circle to stick to the inside of the lamp, which obviously isn't going to work. So just cut around, leaving probably about 3mm around the outside. And obviously you can do another circle for that if it's easier. I'm just going to do that by eye. All we want here is some little tabs to fold in. Cut that round like that. And then cut up to the outer edge of your circle. Just some little slits. My scissors are going blunt. Go all the way around. Like that. And then what I want to do is just see if I can fold those up or down. Whether I need to make them thinner or... Yes, so they fold up quite well there. And I just actually want to do every other one. And then cut off the ones that are left. So I'm just bringing in my craft knife now, just to make the first cut in that central bit so that I can then get my scissors in there and cut around. I want to see then if I can get my scissors in there and cut that central circle out. Let's see if that fits on. No, I need to cut a little bit more out. Okay, so that now fits nicely on there. So what I want to do now is apply double-sided tape to the inside and outside of my lampshade. Okay, so this tape is actually quite thick, so what I'm going to do is just sort of put it onto the inside in patchwork pieces almost, just because that's going to be easier than feeding a strip around. All the way around. Just put that in there like that. And I'll trim off that excess in a moment. Like that, and then just one more little piece to go in there. Like that. And this is just because you're not going to be able to use your normal PVA for attaching acetate to plastic. You're going to need a more sort of specialised glue, but I just find it easier to use double-sided tape. And this one is really strong as well. Okay, so I'm just going to trim off the excess, and I'm just using my smaller scissors, which I wouldn't usually use for double-sided tape, but then I can give them a bit of a clean afterwards. Just using soapy water. I'm going to put a piece around the outside as well. We'll cut that in half first. It's easier than actually trimming it off the shade. Okay, so I've also trimmed my fabric to size here, and that's always easier when you've got lines to cut by. I'm going to attach that into place. I wanted that thicker stripe along the bottom. Like that. And I've got a little bit of glue here just to stick that back down. I'm going to trim a tiny bit off. I'm just going to trim around the top as well, just really carefully, because I don't want that to look uneven. Okay, so I now want to remove the backing from the tape inside. Okay, like that. And then I want to stick that on the inside so that my tabs are downwards. So this is the top of my lamp here. And I just want to just poke that in so that it's sitting more or less along the bottom, but so that you can't see any of those little tabs coming out. Just have a peep in and make sure it looks straight in there. And what you can do is actually use your cocktail stick just to push the tabs against the tape. Make sure that's held firmly in there, and then poke through the tube. And I may need to trim this, I'm not sure yet how tall it's going to be. Yes, I'm going to need to trim that. I've pushed the inner out as well, so let's pop that back up. Okay, so decide how high you want your lamp. I want it a little bit lower down and still just have a little bit of the tube showing. I think that's a little bit too high at the moment. So I'm just going to trim off probably about 5mm from the bottom there. Straight across like that. I'll get that bit later. Try again. smells quite good. I keep pushing the little bit of acetate out, so make sure that's tucked in. I quite like that. There's a little bit of fraying around the top. Try not to pull that, you just want to trim it off, otherwise you might unwind your fabric. I'm quite pleased with that. Yeah, I think that's quite good. So let's go and put that into place. I'm really pleased with that. I think it looks really good in that corner as well. So a really sort of simple technique, but I think as you can see that gives really good results. So any sort of vase that you have, you could use for the base, and obviously bases come in all shapes and sizes. And if you haven't got the inners for the shade, you know, if you haven't got that sort of larger crochet cotton roll, then you could use a small sellotape roll. You know, those sort of little gold and silver gift tapes you can buy. They have smaller rolls like that in them. Or alternatively, you could just use a piece of card, and you could either colour coordinate that to suit the room or add a piece of fabric on the inside as well. But I think that looks really good. So I hope you enjoyed that little technique, and I'm sure you'll make some lovely little lamps as well. If you do have a go at making one, please share your results in my Facebook group, and I'd love to see what you do with yours. Okay, so that's it for today's experimental episode. Really hope you like that little lamp tutorial. I know there wasn't really much else to the episode, just a bit of an update, but I'm really hoping this works because I'm sure this is going to be so much easier to edit than they are on the computer, and less time consuming as well, which is the main thing, because that then means that I'll be able to record and upload more videos. So do let me know what you think of this new format. I'm really hoping the quality and everything is going to be good. I'm going to have a practice now, add in a bit of music and add in some text and all the other sort of bits that I usually add. I'm not sure how that's going to work out yet, but I really want to post this one up. So if it doesn't look quite as it normally does, then my apologies. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please come over and have a look at my Patreon channel if you have the time. There are 4 tiers of membership on there, and it starts from just £1 or $1, €1 a month. But what I'm doing over there now for all tiers, and this isn't actually included in the membership price, it's just a little bit of a bonus, but I'm uploading more or less on a daily basis, and if not then it's every other day, just really sort of short little 3 to 5 minute videos of what I'm working on at the moment, what I'm getting up to. I actually had a morning off yesterday, Thursday morning, and went over to Blenheim Palace with my big camera to take some photographs of the lovely birds and swans that they have over there. And I shared some of my photos over on Patreon, so it's a little bit more about not just what I'm doing in my craft room, but other bits that I'm getting up to as well. So if you think that's something you'd enjoy, do come over and join at any tier. And of course, whichever tier you join, you unlock every single video so far. And as I've been doing it for a few years now, there's quite a few videos over there. So there'll be something that you'll enjoy. I know there will. So I hope to see you there. I hope to be welcoming you as one of my little Bitzers. But if not, I'll see you again here with the next episode of My Doll's House Diary. So until then, take care. Bye.